Today is Thursday. We're almost to Friday. And today, what we're going to be looking at is actually leading a little bit more into that phrasing that I said on Sunday that calls into question, or at least I know we've used it sometimes when it's in our favor. Um, and I posed the question: is this phrase always right? And I don't think it always is. I think sometimes it can be, but I think a lot of times, maybe more than I care to realize, analyzing decisions I've made in the past, it's not. And so the phrase I'm talking about, if you don't know, is the ends justify the means. And so for today, for Thursday, I actually want to read two passages. They might be a little bit longer, but since I don't have a visual up here, I'm going to read them to you pretty quickly. But they're both from the book of First Samuel, and I want to share two stories or two accounts of King Saul where that I came to mind when I was studying about how um, I think it really can apply and be tied to, I guess, with thinking through that phrase, the ends justify the means. And so the first passage is First Samuel 13, picking up in verse 1. And pull it up here, verse 1 through verse 14. So here's the first one. Saul was 30 years old when he became king, and he reigned over Israel 42 years. Saul chose 3,000 men from Israel. 2,000 were with him at Michmash and in the hill country of Bethel, and 1,000 were with Jonathan and Gibeah and Benjamin. The rest of the men he sent back to their homes. Jonathan attacked the Philistine outpost at Geba, and the Philistines heard about it. And Saul had the trumpet blown throughout the land and said, "Let the Hebrews hear." So all Israel heard the news. Saul has attacked the Philistine outpost, and now Israel has become obnoxious to the Philistines. That's just a really funny phrasing, if you ask me. And the people were summoned to join Saul at Gilgal. The Philistines assembled to fight Israel with 3,000 chariots, 6,000 charioteers, and soldiers as numerous as the sands on the seashore. They went up and camped at Michmash, east of Beth Aven. When the Israelites saw that their situation was critical and that their army was hard pressed, they hid in caves and thickets among the rocks and in pits and cisterns. Some Hebrews even crossed the Jordan to the land of Gad and Gilead. Saul remained at Gilgal with all the troops with him. And all the troops with him were quaking in fear. He waited 7 days, the time set by Samuel, but Samuel did not come to Gilgal, and Saul's men began to scatter. So he said, "Bring me the burnt offering and the fellowship offerings." And Saul offered up the burnt offering. Just as he finished making the offering, Samuel arrived, and Saul went out to greet him. "What have you done?" asked Samuel. Saul replied, "When I saw that the men were scattering and that you had not come at the set time, and that the Philistines were assembling at Michmash, I thought, now the Philistines will come down against me at Gilgal, and I have not sought the Lord's favor. So I felt compelled to offer the burnt offering." "You have done a foolish thing," Samuel said. You have not kept the command of the Lord your God. You have not kept the command the Lord your God gave you. If you had, he would have established your kingdom over Israel for all time, but now your kingdom will not endure. The Lord has sought out a man after his own heart and appointed him ruler of his people, because you have not kept the Lord's command. So that's the first text, 1 Samuel 13, 1 through 14. And the second one is 1 Samuel 15, 1 through 23. So just a couple chapters later, Samuel said to Saul, "I am the one the Lord sent to anoint you king over his people Israel, so listen now to the message from the Lord. This is what the Lord Almighty says. I will punish the Amalekites for what they did to Israel when they waylaid them as they came up from Egypt. Now go and attack the Amalekites and totally destroy all that belongs to them. Do not spare them. Put to death men, women, children, infants, cattle, sheep, camels, and donkeys." So Saul summoned the men and mustered them at Telaim. 200,000 foot soldiers and 10,000 from Judah. Saul went to the city of Amalek and set an ambush in the ravine. Then he said to the Kenites, "Go away, leave the Amalekites, so that I do not destroy you along with them. For you showed kindness to all the Israelites when they came up out of Egypt." So the Kenites, or the Kenites, Kenites, we'll go with that, moved away from the Amalekites. Then Saul attacked the Amalekites all the way from Havilah to Shur, near the eastern border of Egypt. He took Agag, king of the Amalekites, alive, and all his people he totally destroyed with the sword. But Saul and the army spared Agag and the best of the sheep and cattle and the fat calves and lambs, everything that was good. These they were unwilling to destroy completely, but everything that was despised and weak they totally destroyed. Then the word of the Lord came to Samuel, I regret that I have made Saul king, because he has turned away from me and he has not carried out my instructions. Samuel was angry, and he cried out to the Lord all that night. Early in the morning, Samuel got up and went to meet Saul, but he was told, Saul has gone to Carmel. There he has set up a monument in his own honor, and he has turned and gone down to Gilgal. When Samuel reached him, Saul said, The Lord bless you. I have carried out the Lord's instructions. But Samuel said, What then is this bleating? I said bleating, not bleeping, just so you know. I'm not censoring. What is this bleating of sheep in my ears? Although maybe Samuel was so angry he would have said that. I don't know. Anyway, you can think about that. That's a question for you to think about today. What is this lowing of cattle that I hear? Saul answered, The soldiers brought them from the Amalekites. They spared the best of the sheep and cattle to sacrifice to the Lord your God. But we totally destroyed the rest. Enough, Samuel said to Saul. Let me tell you what the Lord has said to me last night. Tell me, Saul replied. Samuel said, Although you were once small in your own eyes, you did not become the head of the. Did you not become the head of the tribes of Israel? The Lord appointed you king over Israel. And he sent you on a mission saying, Go and completely destroy those wicked people, the Amalekites. Wage war against them until you have wiped them out. Why did you not obey the Lord? Why did you pounce on the plunder and do evil in the eyes of the Lord? But I did obey the Lord, Saul said. I went on the mission the Lord assigned me. I completely destroyed the Amalekites and brought back Agag, their king. The soldiers took sheep and cattle from the plunder, the best of what was devoted to God, in order to sacrifice them to the Lord your God at Gilgal. But Samuel replied, Does the Lord delight in burnt offerings and sacrifices as much as in obeying the Lord? To obey is better than sacrifice, and to heed is better than the fat of rams. For rebellion is like the sin of divination, and arrogance is like the evil of idolatry. Because you have rejected the word of the Lord, he has rejected you as king. So those two stories, again, they were long, so I'm sorry, but 1 Samuel 13, 1 through 14, and 1 Samuel 15, 1 through 23. Here's my question as you think through those stories, and maybe go back and read them when you have time later today. Saul was not doing things in God's way or in God's timing. For him, the ends justified the means. But God clearly was not happy with that, and neither was Samuel. So the question I want you to think about today as you process through this and think through that, and think through the phrase, the ends justify the means. How can you relate to Saul, to King Saul in these stories? And again, if you need to go back and listen to it, that's fine. If you need to go back and reread it on your own, totally fine. But I'm going to say that question one more time. How can you relate to Saul in these stories? And that's all I have for you today. So think about that, pray through that. Maybe text somebody or call somebody and chat about that. And I will be back tomorrow with what's for Friday and the weekend.